We don't really push firearm safety training. We push sex ed training. We push drug use training. We push alcohol training. And why do we do that? We do that to protect our kids. But we don't allow firearm safety training.
That's just some of what was said yesterday during a House Gun Violence Prevention Committee at the Illinois State Capitol, where they did ultimately advance a bill to require safe gun storage, despite it having 6-1 individuals filing in opposition to it. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Also today, for this Wednesday, you've got an appeals court hearing on the challenge against Illinois' prohibition of carrying concealed firearms on mass transit. The district court has deemed that unconstitutional, and the appeals court is hearing that challenge today. So big things happening in that space. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. You can get this podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus. You can also get headlines at thecentersquare.com. We're a free newswire service. You can get the newsletter in your inbox each and every weekday morning with some of the headlines, but also right here with YouTube, the Center Square. You can like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us for the live show. So let's get to it. Yesterday, the Illinois House Gun Violence Prevention Committee met to deal with Senate Bill 8. Senate Bill 8 has already passed the Senate. So now it's in the House. It had to pass through a committee before it gets on the House floor. And that exactly is what happened yesterday. It passed a House committee. Let's hear from the sponsor of the measure, State Representative Maura Hirschauer, a Democrat from Batavia, talking about one aspect of the measure, and that is the requirement for safe storage.
To provide that it is unlawful for any person to store or leave a firearm if they know or reasonably should know that a minor is likely to gain access, and again, a minor is 18 and under in this bill, unless the firearm is secured by a device or a mechanism other than the firearm safety designed to render it temporarily inoperable. An example of this is a cable lock or placed, which is my preference and best practice, placed in a securely locked box or container.
So Hirschauer laying that out, that you have to have it in a lockbox or a container of some kind, or rather a cable lock. So here is Illinois State Rifle Association's Ed Sullivan pushing back on that during yesterday's committee.
A cable, which is a cheap device, cheaper, still very good device to lock a thing, is not eligible under this bill that was just reported. You have to have a locked container.
Now, Hirschauer said that's not true, that it does allow for a cable lock. But let's take a look at what the language of the bill actually says here. You can go and find this at ilga.gov and search for SB 8, and you'll pull up the language here, and it says, let's just go through this. Except as provided in this section, it's unlawful for any person to store or leave within premise under his or her control a firearm if a person knows or has a reason to believe that a minor under the age of 18 who does not have a firearm owner ID card is likely to gain access to the firearm without the lawful permission of the minor's parent, guardian, or person having charge of the minor, and the minor causes death or great bodily harm with a firearm unless the firearm is 1. Secured by a device or mechanism other than the firearm safety designed to render a firearm temporarily inoperable, or placed in a securely locked box or container. So could it possibly be interpreted that a cable lock is something that a mechanism that could temporarily make a firearm inoperable? I guess we'll leave that up to interpretation. But the back and forth went on, because Senate Bill 8 also essentially says that you can't have a firearm outside of a locked case or operable if there's somebody who's not allowed to have a FOID card or is a, quote, prohibited person to have a FOID card. What is a prohibited person? Well, a prohibited person is somebody in Illinois that does not have a firearm owner ID card. Sullivan says that could be grandma coming in from out of town.
So a prohibited person is someone that doesn't have a FOID card. Under Senate Bill 8, Amendment number 3, they did say that if you were otherwise eligible for a FOID card, then that does not apply to you. So what that tells me is don't invite Aunt Grandma or your grandma from Wisconsin to your facility, or a cousin or someone that lives out of state, because if they would gain access to your firearm, you would be in violation of this law.
And Hirschauer responding to that, saying that, no, in the law, the intent isn't to say that somebody without a FOID card is considered a prohibited person, even though earlier in the language we looked at there, it does say that, anyone under the age of 18 that does not have a firearm owner ID card. Well, what does that say, though? Hirschauer fights back with what she says is a misrepresentation by Sullivan.
A prohibited person under this bill is a person who is not eligible to have a FOID card or not eligible to own a gun under federal law. I personally don't have a FOID card. That does not make me a prohibited person. I am eligible to apply and be granted a FOID card, or I'm eligible under federal law. So that was a misrepresentation.
The debate went on from there in the House Gun Violence Prevention Committee, where Hirschauer was asked by State Representative Patrick Windhorst a variety of things about, for instance, the legality of this and would it stand muster to U.S. Supreme Court precedents under Heller, under Bruin, and in particular under Bruin. She was asked about any historical analogs about requiring safe gun storage. Hirschauer said while she's become more tuned into Revolutionary War era gun regulations, the only thing she could find was about properly storing bulk gunpowder. So she said she couldn't find any historical analog. Well, that opens up the front door right there for a challenge to this law once it does become law, if indeed it gets through the House today or tomorrow or before Saturday and on the governor's desk for him to sign. And to the legality of it, you have Josh Witkowski with Illinois Federation for Outdoor Resources saying that the U.S. Supreme Court has already essentially ruled on the issue of requiring firearms to be inoperable.
That you have a right to have a firearm accessible for the purposes of self-defense. It dealt specifically with a law that required the firearms to be locked up or inaccessible via trigger lock or cable lock, just as we are dealing with here. It stated that that firearm not being accessible for self-defense is a violation of Second Amendment rights.
Again, another avenue that I'm sure the Second Amendment advocates are going to use in order to challenge this if it indeed becomes law. But the safe gun storage aspect is just one aspect of this. Another aspect is it shortens the required time frame for people to report lost and stolen firearms to local authorities. So right now, I think it's 72 hours. They want to shorten that to 48 hours. It also has some elements in there. If somebody is, steals a gun and it's not reported within 48 hours, and then that firearm is used by a third party to commit a crime, that the original owner of the firearm could be held liable. Again, something else that was approximate cause, I think was the terminology they used to say that that's just silly to charge somebody for the actions of somebody else, especially when they're the victim of having property theft. Hirschauer lays out what could possibly happen, though, if somebody doesn't report a lost or stolen firearm within the 48-hour time frame. Under this section, the Illinois State Police may revoke a firearm after a second or subsequent violation of failing to report a lost or stolen firearm. I think she meant to say revoke a firearm owner ID card, the FOID card. So on a second offense of not reporting lost or stolen firearms, then you could have that. Sullivan, he finished up some of his comments essentially saying, listen, there's other ways to make society more safe other than continued, what Second Amendment community would say are onerous laws on legal gun owners, like safe gun storage or banning weapons or requiring them to get a FOID card, for instance. Sullivan says we need to get back to the basics.
We don't really push firearm safety training. We push sex ed training. We push drug use training. We push alcohol training. And why do we do that? We do that to protect our kids. But we don't allow firearm safety training.
Again, another interesting point. Hirschauer says while it's not a mandate, the legislature did recently allow for local school districts to implement some kind of firearm safety course for children. Again, though, it's not a mandate. Should it be a mandate? Or maybe something that schools have to do and parents can have their kids opt into it? I don't know. But regardless, an interesting little side note there. So that is expected to come up on the House floor sometime before Saturday. Could it be today? Could it be Thursday, Friday, or could it be late Saturday? We'll see. Obviously, as a reporter, the editor of Illinois here in the land of Lincoln for the Center Square. So we're on top of it, and we'll definitely keep you posted. Follow along with thecentersquare.com. You can also follow me on X. Just search Bishop on Air, and you can find a whole slew of stories there as well. Something else that's happening in the Second Amendment space today. You've got the Schoenthal case, which is about the challenge against Illinois and Cook County's ban of carrying concealed firearms on mass transit. This was filed several years ago. It was in the district court where the district judge found it unconstitutional as applied to the individuals that brought the lawsuit. So it's not a blanket, it's unconstitutional for everybody, just for those who filed the lawsuit. So that whole saga, too, was interesting, and we can go back and revisit some of that because I tuned into a phone call of a conference between attorneys and the judge in the district court after the judge made his determination it was unconstitutional. The state and the Cook County lawyers said that the judge's decision 3 days after the fact, somebody was murdered on the Red Line or something up in Chicago and using firearms. An assailant killed, 2 people, I think. So the judge took offense to that, brought them in and chastised them, saying that the judge did not pull that trigger, that it's likely the individual who was the assailant in this did not have a FOID card or a concealed carry license and was a criminal. And the judge's decision had no weight on that. So the state's attorney and the Cook County attorney, they got raked over the coals during that. But ultimately, that case now in the appeals court, and they have an oral argument set for today. They'll have to be, essentially the supporters of the prohibition of carrying concealed firearms in mass transit having to defend the law after a district court said it's unconstitutional. So we'll see what happens there. Other things, you've also got some filing deadlines early next week of the state having to respond, the plaintiffs having to respond in the Barnett case. That's the case challenging Illinois' gun and magazine ban. So we'll get some more updates on that next week. Still have yet to see if there's going to be oral arguments scheduled in the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, but clearly that's something to watch for. But again, all today, we're going to be watching for if SB 8 passes out of the House, and then also we'll be tuning in to the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals YouTube channel for their oral arguments in the Schoenthal case. We'll review that tomorrow here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning as we bring you the latest of what's going on in the land of Lincoln. Each and every weekday morning. Catch us live, get the podcast, check out the headlines at thecentersquare.com.